I lived in a small town just outside Kecksburg in the USA. The date was December 9th, 1965. The church was a good 30-minute walk from our house in suburbia. I'd asked my parents if I could attend our neighbor's funeral, as he had no family of his own. Over the years, since he moved in, I had grown quite fond of the lonely old German guy next door known as Walter. Being your typical 18-year-old boy with a part-time job, I thought buying a wreath for the first time seemed quite expensive, and I found myself uncertain and awkward, wondering how to carry it with the proper solemnity. The sky was an oppressive grey, casting a somber pall over the cold and frosty December morning. Each breath I took billowed out in a dense fog, a tangible reminder of the chill that had settled deep into my bones. As I approached the foreboding silhouette of the church, its ancient stones seemed to loom larger with every step. The pastor, shrouded in a heavy dark grey overcoat, stood at the entrance. His eyes crinkled in a faint smile above the scarf wound tightly around his neck, a brief glimmer of warmth in the icy air. With a firm but gentle push, he opened the heavy church door, which groaned and creaked with a sound reminiscent of a classic horror film. Inside, the dim light revealed a tall man clad in a long black leather coat and a trilby hat, standing solemnly beside a coffin resting on a trestle. The sight was unexpected, almost surreal. Heart pounding, I approached the coffin and with a mix of reverence and unease placed my wreath carefully on top. The man turned to me, his presence commanding and enigmatic.
You must be Alex. Walter spoke very highly of you. I am Bernard, the executor of Walter's estate. Walter asked me to personally deliver this letter to you. My condolences for your loss. I will see to the burial later. For now, I will leave you to your grief.
He handed me the letter with a respectful bow of his head. With that, he turned on his heel and departed, his footsteps echoing in the silent, cavernous space. As Bernard's footsteps faded into the distance, I was left alone in the vast, echoing emptiness of the church. The silence was almost oppressive, the cold stone walls closing in around me. I sat down on a pew, my hands trembling as I held the letter, afraid of what secrets it might contain. My gaze drifted to the coffin, and memories of Walter flooded back. Walter, the kind yet solitary neighbor with those piercing blue eyes that had unsettled so many when he first moved in. He had been an enigma, an outsider, yet always greeted me with a polite smile. I recalled a sweltering Friday afternoon. Walter was mowing his lawn, sweat pouring down his face. Feeling a pang of sympathy, I brought him a tray with milk and cookies. His eyes lit up with gratitude, and he invited me to sit with him on the freshly cut grass. As we sat, he began to unravel his life story. He spoke of the accident at his father's science lab that had cost him his little finger, a mishap he now chuckled about. He recounted his service to his country, the tragic loss of his entire family during the war, and his subsequent move from Germany to America. A travel poster of Pennsylvania in summer had caught his eye, and immediately decided that was the place to start anew. Walter confided that he was now a writer, chronicling his many adventures. Our Friday talks became a cherished routine. Each week, he would regale me with amazing tales of time travel that he and his best friend shared. I could tell he was a masterful writer, as his stories were so vivid, so rich in detail, traversing countless eras and locales. I looked down at the letter in my hands. It bore a logo I didn't recognize, and German text beneath it, giving it an air of officialdom. With a deep breath, I unfolded the paper within. It was written in a beautiful script, with the ink from a fountain pen. Walter had always been a man of tradition. Slowly, I began to read Walter's neatly written words, each word a connection to the past and the mysteries that Walter had left behind.
My dear Alex, as I pen these words from the beyond, I envision only you, The pastor and Bernard gathered in solemn respect, the last witnesses to my departure from this world. Among all who crossed my path since my arrival in America, you alone extended a hand of kindness to this old German outcast, who others often ridiculed and shunned. Your compassion breathed new life into my soul, and our Friday rendezvous became the highlight of my week. The joy in your eyes as I recounted my tales mirrored my own excitement in sharing them with you. But now, my dear Alex, I must unburden myself of a secret I have kept for my entire life, a secret sworn to my fatherland, never to be revealed while I lived. Now, in my death, you are the only one to whom I can entrust this truth. You know that my father was a scientist, and I followed in his footsteps. My science skills and knowledge in the field drew the attention of none other than Adolf Hitler himself, who appointed me as the lead scientist on his new and most secretive project of the utmost importance. The year was 1942. I was assigned to the Waffen-SS, the elite combat branch of the military, and stationed at a secret facility in Lower Silesia. As the tides of war turned against him, Hitler's desperation grew. With each passing day of the war, he sought a wonder weapon, a miracle, to turn the tides and secure Germany's dominance over the world. For 2 grueling years, I experimented with a strange, purplish, metallic-looking substance, codenamed Serum-115, rumored to have been salvaged from a mysterious aircraft that crashed near our Antarctic base.
I paused, my breath catching in my throat as I read, my hands trembling, whether from the cold or the shocking revelation. I couldn't tell. The weight of Walter's words pressed upon me, urging me to continue reading.
I labored alone, driven by a fevered determination that bordered on madness. By 1944, I had constructed a machine based on Hitler's cryptic blueprints. To the untrained eye, it appeared as nothing more than a glowing, rotating contraption. But I knew its true potential. The device, with its 2 high-speed, counter-rotating cylinders filled with Serum-115, held the power to bend both time and space. I had perfected it to the point of achieving the ability to control precisely where, and more importantly, what date I wanted to travel to. Sitting inside the machine, I cautiously tested its capabilities within the confines of my lab, at first only moving the machine from one side of the lab to the other. I experienced the eerie sensation of traveling through space, and then time, an hour forward, then an hour back. I had done it. I had created a device capable of moving through the very fabric of time itself. Because of the machine's unique shape, I christened it the Bell Die Glock. One fateful evening, as I sat within its enigmatic confines, questions swirled in my mind like a tempest. I realized that in the wrong hands, this device could unleash untold havoc upon the world. And so, with a heavy heart and a resolute spirit, I stole it away. My dear Alex, of all the tales I have spun for you, this one stands as the pinnacle, the story to end all stories. Thank you for being my friend. Perhaps we shall meet again in another life. Sincerely yours, Walter.
As I gently returned the letter to its envelope, a sigh of relief escaped my lips. Walter's stories had always captivated me, and I couldn't help but smile, knowing he had saved his most extraordinary tale for last. I sat in the hushed silence of the church. I reflected again on the incredible time travel journeys Walter had shared with me. Just then, the church door creaked open, breaking the spell of my thoughts. Expecting to see either the pastor or Bernard, I was taken aback when a young man briskly strode down the aisle and approached me with an air of urgency. His piercing blue eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. He raised his hand to his lips in a gesture of secrecy. It was then I noticed his little finger was missing.
Good morning, Alex. It's nice to see you again. Are you ready to begin our time travel adventures? Yes, that good friend who accompanied me on my time travel journeys, that was you.
Stunned yet exhilarated, I looked up at him, smiled and nodded approvingly. This is the end of my story. Or is it just the beginning?